Hello, everyone. X-Walk Hill Bethelite here. And let's talk about what I think is almost a religious belief people have that keeps the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses going. It's like the fuel you put in your car. In order to keep your car running, you got to go to the gas station and fill up on gas. Like this is what the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses run off of, this belief that people are not responsible for their own choices. That Jehovah's Witnesses are somehow absolved of all responsibility. And when they go into that kingdom hall, they all become like 5-year-olds. It doesn't matter if they're 40 years old with like 3 different families from 3 different divorces, and they've experienced all kinds of life. And it doesn't matter if they are a Jehovah's Witness, all the shunning, everything they do, they're not responsible for it because they're like children. Their brains are totally controlled, and they have no control of their own brains. This is false. This is false. This is a belief that keeps the cult going because no one's going to call them to task if no one believes no one's responsible for anything. I don't even know exactly where this belief originated from, but it's obviously false because we're all here. I was at Bethel because I lived, ate, breathed, and slept that religion. I was going to 2 congregations at the same time, English and Spanish. This is how much I believed that what we were teaching was the truth. And yet, here I am right here because it didn't matter how much manipulation that the Jehovah's Witnesses used on me. It didn't matter how much sheltering I was put under as I was raised in this cult. The cult can't extract your brain. You're able to think. The thing is some people choose, keyword, choose not to see, not to hear, not to think. And they should bear responsibility for that choice. The way things are now, with everyone having access to the internet, everyone's got access to YouTube, everyone can Google things. The way things are now is a cult like the Jehovah's Witnesses, specifically a cult that it itself has shown that it's been false a million times. You can just look at their own teachings. Once it becomes so blatantly obvious and it's everywhere online, no, we can no longer say, well, these people have been mind controlled and they just have no responsibility at all for their stance. Not anymore. You can't say that anymore. You had more of a chance of getting that by back in the day, back before everybody had computers. Because before I went to Bethel, I tried to look up everything I could about Bethel. Why? Because I was about to go someplace that I had no information about. I knew just off basic common sense that any information I could get about Bethel would help me know what should I bring. What do I expect when I get there? any information would be beneficial. So I got my laptop and started searching anything that I could, but I was looking at one of the CD-ROMs, printed out anything I could about Bethel. Now, everybody's online. Back then, you had to, if I remember correctly, you had to freaking have, connect a cord to the freaking phone jack and do all kinds of crazy stuff to get on the internet a long time ago. Now you can just get on with your phone. It's too easy to access the information about the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses. It's too easy now. It's so easy to access this information. It has to be a choice not to access it. Because at some point during a person's life, they will see the need to look something up. Just like me, I was as devoted as a person humanly possibly could be. And yet I ran across a point in time where I needed to look up any information I could about Bethel to prepare myself to go to Bethel. If I had the access to the internet then, like we have now, there's a really good chance that during my research trying to find out everything I could about Bethel, I would have ran across a YouTube video like mine. I would have ran across some articles from people giving their experiences after being put out. I'd have ran into Ray Franz's situation. It's a good possibility that if we all would have had back then what we got now, a lot of us would have left earlier. Why is that? It's because it's not true that Jehovah's Witnesses are just freaking walking 5-year-olds that don't have any ability to think, don't have any ability to do research, don't have any responsibility for their personal choice to wake up every day and decide, I don't want to know. That's a choice. That is a choice. Growing up, I was willing to have a discussion with anybody because I believed I had the truth. I believed that cult was true, the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses. And because of that belief, oh man, I would have a debate with anybody, anytime they wanted it. I used to carry my Bible around just in case I got into a discussion at the barber shop or I got into a discussion anywhere else at the grocery store in the line. Let's have it out. Let's have this discussion. That's how a person acts if they believe they have the truth. But I have personally had discussion with relatives where if the conversation ain't going the way they want it, they gonna hang up the phone and I don't know, block your number and try not to talk to you no more. That's a choice because they don't want to know. That's not how a person acts when they really believe they've got the truth and they've got the answer and solution to anything, any problem, any situation you bring them. So deciding not to know something, that is completely 100% on that person. That cult cannot keep a person off YouTube. That cult cannot keep a person from researching when they're alone. That cult cannot make your relative hang up the phone when you decide to talk to them about the crazy overlapping generation teaching. That's your relative's decision to hang up the phone on you. The cult's not making them do it. If this belief that all Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't do anything wrong, and they're all a bunch of like kids who they don't know what they're doing. They're all just completely misled. It's a choice to be misled now in this time. We're not talking about back in the day where it was really hard to get any information contrary to what Jehovah's Witnesses teach. We're talking now when it's really hard to avoid getting the freaking information that the Jehovah's Witnesses are a cult. You have to attempt to hide from this information. You have to. You can't even get on Google and Google your own religion. You have to take steps to avoid running into this information. That is a choice, and everyone who does it has decided they don't want to pursue whether or not they're really in the truth or not. They just like the paradise teaching, and they don't care what happens to anybody else as long as they feel comforted. They just like the teaching that they're going to be in this paradise, and they're going to be eating this watermelon and sitting next to their dead loved ones. As long as they can hold on to that teaching, they don't care what happens. They don't care about the shunned people. They don't care about the people that die because of blood transfusion. It's a choice. There was a relative who I remember somebody basically recorded a conversation with one of my relatives. And this relative was asked, hey, on our discussion, should we invite Marcus? Should we invite me in a discussion between my relative and them? My relative was like, no, don't go get Marcus. No. Because they are trying to avoid me on purpose. They're not walking around blind. They are by choice trying to avoid Marcus, because if Marcus comes around, then what about their wife? What about their, everybody's going to hear what I have to say. They don't want that. They don't want that. If a person decides to avoid learning about something, a cult can't make them do that. A cult can only manipulate and take advantage of a situation, which the situation that we had back in the day is that it was not easy to come across any information that was contrary to Watchtower teaching. The cult wasn't even extremely afraid of, for example, what they would call apostates. Back when I was growing up, you didn't hear about apostates all the time. The internet wasn't as big back then. Watchtower wasn't afraid. Now, because there's so much information available, Watchtower is constantly talking about apostates and avoid them and all this stuff. Why would they do that if Jehovah's Witnesses were a bunch of brainless zombies, completely separated from the ability to think? If these people couldn't think, Watchtower wouldn't need them to avoid things. Watchtower doesn't want them to step foot in a church for a reason. A person going inside of a church would then see that that church doesn't teach what Watchtower told them it teaches. They would see that that church is not filled with a whole bunch of pagans the way Watchtower teaches that they are. Watchtower needs to do something called information control. They need to keep people away from information that would wake them up, because human beings have this ability to think, and no one has figured out how to completely shut that off yet. Not even a cult. Other cults, let's say, for example, Mormons. Their religion hasn't screwed up as much as Watchtower has. There isn't as much information. A Mormon can get online, and somebody could debate me on this. A Mormon could get online, and they're not going to run into as much proof that their religion is wrong as a Jehovah's Witness would. Jehovah's Witnesses just have done the worst job of any religion as far as hiding their mistakes and making mistakes and putting them all in writing, putting them all in watchtowers. So because of that, it's a choice. I keep running into people that anytime something happens to a person who is victimized by this cult, a person who committed suicide because that cult took everyone away from them that they love. That cult took their family away from them. That cult sheltered them to the extreme measure that this person was now not capable of surviving on their own without their support network. When they leave and then they run into so many problems, they end up committing suicide. Well, people, it's not Jehovah's Witnesses' fault. Oh, it's not their fault. Yes, it is. They deliberately put that person in a situation to make it as stressful as possible, to make them obedient. And sometimes they push people too far, and there's been people who have unfortunately committed suicide. We've lost people because of this cult. There was a woman who killed herself, her family, and her dog. And there were some people that were real quick to jump on here because they just have this religious belief that they just got to defend Watchtower. It's not Jehovah's Witnesses' fault. Jehovah's Witnesses didn't do anything. Oh, she was just crazy. She just did all that on her own. Jehovah's Witness didn't push her at all. The shunning, it don't affect nobody. Oh, the shunning feels good. Oh, I quite enjoy it. I mean, people are just like, they're simping for Watchtower. You got Watchtower simps, people who bend over backwards. They know it's a cult, but they bend over backwards to defend it. And they make stuff up that people don't know that shunning is hurtful. They know it is. They know full well that they attempt to shelter people to an extreme degree so that they can't make it on their own. They know that they've taught that people should not pursue higher education. They know all of this. And they know the possible effects. These people are not completely without any brain at all. Otherwise, none of us would have woken up. None of us would be here. Almost any cult in existence, I don't care if it's Scientology, Leah Remini woke up. If I didn't pronounce the name wrong, y'all kill me in the comments section if I pronounce a name wrong. But she woke up. Other people woke up. It's a whole group of people that woke up. Why? Because Scientology ain't figured out how to stop that from happening. Scientology ain't figured out how to completely stop a person from being able to think. You could just try to keep them away from someone or a group of people or things online. You try to keep them away from that, but to a certain extent, it comes to the point where it's that person's choice not to look into anything. It's the same with Jehovah's Witnesses. It's the same with Any cult you can think of, World Mission Society, Church of God, there's people that's woke up and they've done videos about that religion. There's no cult in existence that I'm aware of that is able to completely keep a person from thinking when they see that there's something that's a problem. What Jehovah's Witnesses, what Watchtower tries to do is just, tell them to stay away from certain things. Don't go look at it. So if you bring up the Australian Royal Commission to your relatives about the child sex abuse that was going on with Jehovah's Witnesses, and you tell them a governing body member showed up and everything, it's all on video here for you. If they don't watch it, they chose not to watch it. They can't sit up here and say, apostates made Jeffrey Jackson say what he said. They made him appear. They can't say that's not really him on the screen. That there's some apostate that just looks just like him and they made a make-pretend court session. They can't say anything other than they choose not to look into it because they don't care. They don't care. If the people who care about child sex abuse, especially people who have been molested themselves, they feel strongly about it. If they find out that something like that happened in a royal commission in Australia, they're going to look into it. And a lot of them end up waking up. Why? Because they didn't choose to avoid the truth. There are Jehovah's Witnesses who they like being comforted so much that they choose to ignore all the suffering that it would cause. The same is true for a person that is on drugs. The same is true for a person who's on crack cocaine. It ain't that they don't know that that drug is destructive to their life. They don't care because it provides them with a certain level of comfort. It helps them get through things. It makes them feel good. They know it's wrong to steal from their relatives and sell things to people to make money for drugs. But they're so addicted to that feeling that drug provides, that if their family says, hey, we will get you help. There are facilities where people are trained to help with addiction. And if that person says, no, I don't want help. That's a choice. The drug didn't make them do that. They just don't want to get off of it. It's the same with Jehovah's Witnesses. This belief that, they're just all misled and don't know anything is false. It's false. It would be darn near impossible for them to not know anything without putting forth a lot of effort to not know anything. They don't know anything on purpose. They're doing it on purpose. They're making up excuses for Stephen Lett when he said babies are enemies of God on purpose. They made excuses for Tony Morris when he went buck wild in a liquor store on purpose. Watchtower didn't make them do that. Watchtower didn't take away their ability to know something's wrong with that. They don't care. This concept that all these Jehovah's Witnesses are just all nice, good people is a lie that the cult taught us. A lot of them are extremely selfish. They only care about themselves, feeling good, having a teaching that makes them feel good. They don't care about everybody else. They don't even care if All the other teachings are false. They're selfish. A lot of them are selfish. They choose not to look into their religion because they like it and they don't want to wake up. It's like that person who's late for work. There's people who are late for work not because of things beyond their control, but because their bed felt good. All that blanket, all that pillow, all this sleep feels so good. Oh, I'm just going to stay in bed as long as possible. They end up being late for work because of a choice. They knew that they needed to get up. They knew that they needed to wake up. They chose not to because it felt so good in that bed. It's the same with Jehovah's Witnesses. They know they haven't spoken to their relative in 10 years. They know they're shunning their own kids. They know they're getting older and older and this end of the world isn't coming. They know Stephen Lett looks and sounds crazy. But they just don't want to get out of bed because all this nice comfy blanket, all this pillow, oh, it's so fluffy. That's a choice to stay in bed. Now in our time, it's a choice to stay asleep and not wake up from the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses. All this absolving grown adults from their decision not to listen to us, their decision to hang up on their own relatives and family when they call them and try to talk to them about this religion. Their decision to avoid anything they see online about their religion. Their decision to make excuses for everything a governing body member does. The time for absolving grown adults for their decisions to stay asleep is over. It's over. Yes, there are people out there that make up excuses for Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm not one of them. I'm not one of them. So comment down below. Let me know what you think. But we need to completely wake up from this cult. Pour some cold water on our heads here. Completely wake up from this cult. Don't hold on to the belief that all these people are walking 5-year-olds that don't have no responsibility for their choice to stay asleep and to avoid any information about Watchtower that they don't like. Comment down below, 937-789-4029. We'll discuss it. X Wall Kill Bethelite signing out.